The Elk Bros have never hunted elk outside of New Mexico. That is until this season. Like thousands of others, we packed up our vehicles with gear and hit the Colorado border. Then we stopped to buy over-the-counter tags and headed for the mountains. Want to know what we learned? Well, then, here we go. On tonight's show, it's all about OTC archery elk hunting in Colorado. What worked, what didn't, lessons learned, our insights and thoughts. That discussion, some Elk Bros shout outs, and scenario questions from our Elk Bros mailbox. You will not want to miss. So, my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volumes just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your host Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gilly. You want to hunt elk, and they live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello there, everyone. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy the show. And as always, from our Blue Collar Hunters following our show and grinding it out with us every week, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas, the host of your show, coming to you live from Spring, Texas, and from Katy, Texas, and the DFW metro area. That's right, we've got the leaders of the Venezuelan mafia in the house. And from Cimarron, we've got your elk hunting coaches in the house, the Ninja Leroy Chavez and WWJGD. What's up, fellas? We're all back off the mountain and ready to let our listeners know what's up.
Man, I feel bad.
When the world use like single, it's not plural, it's single. The leader. I'm handing.
I don't know what y'all are talking about, man.
Hey, you know, I feel bad, guys. I feel bad. We need to kind of let him have it for like a few days in a row or something like that. Dude had to actually get money out of his bank account to go and pay somebody to actually engrave a cup that would say the leader of the Venezuelan mafia. So that's how desperate he is at this point, man. I was like, I'm cool.
My good friend Brendan gave it to me.
Yeah,
it was a gift.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Thank you, Brendan.
He probably had to pay Brendan for it too.
I want you guys to know I have a cup as well that says leader of the Venezuelan mafia.
Can't do it. It's just like you don't have the birthright. You can't be it. It just doesn't work like that, Joe. You don't understand.
It's a mafia, dude.
No, you can't.
Italians invented the mafia. So I mean, it's like
you can be a member of the Venezuelan
buddy to make sure that that we
you can be a member of the Venezuelan mafia, but not a leader of the Venezuelan mafia, Joe.
I don't do member, bro. I don't do member.
Don't worry, Joe. I feel your pain, brother. I coined them the Venezuelan mafia, gave them their name, and birthed to the life of the Venezuelan mafia. And I ain't getting no love either, bro. Believe me. All I get is grief if I don't call one of them the leader. Now we have gone and said the leaders of the Venezuelan mafia.
All I know is for what?
Grow their faction, right?
3 or 4 years that we hunted together. I believe those boys walked behind me. Right?
Yeah. You know, it's the old saying, you give somebody an inch, they take a mile, Joe.
Yeah, they're unleashed now.
I could go straight unleashed here, but you'd have to bleep out a lot of it.
And I'll tell you what, there are consequences from behind.
Going behind, Joe.
Hey, you know,
very negative consequences out of that.
Hey guys, so by this time now, we were going to do this podcast like a week ago or so. But I ended up at Elk Camp, so many things going on that now we're finally getting this out. And Hunt Wars is over. Our coaches are back home. There's not a whole lot we can say, but let me tell you what, the drama is there, bro. It's pretty doggone cool. And our coaches were fantastic. I got a chance to talk with Troy. I got to talk with Brent and Will. These are all the co-owners. There's 4 of them, I believe. And they were the ones that were out in the field doing, Brent and Will were out in the field doing the camera work. And Bud, man, the camera footage, the video is off the charts, man. They're just, and they said that, you know, the guys' skill sets, what they had to say about Eric and Cole, they were just, you know, they were just top of the line out there. So Hunt Wars is over. Everything's in the can. The editing shall begin. We'll start to see what happens in next March. But, you know, we're going to do some podcasts. We got to figure out how we're going to do this with these guys, because we need to do podcasts with each of the teams,
You bet.
and or all the teams together. I haven't figured out which we're going to do first, and we're going to talk about everything real time, straight up, while it's fresh in their memory, but we're not able to release that until afterwards. So, and we've got to find time to do that. So we'll get that all figured out. We'll hook it up and get those guys going. And I can tell you, man, I can tell you this, they were in elk every day, incredible footage. And I'm not sure if blood was drawn or not. Well, we'll find out, man. So
Just have to tune in to find out, Joe.
have to find out. But they will be opening up. It won't be long till they'll be opening up for season 3 of Hunt Wars. So all of our people out there, if you're wanting to have a shot at that and have a completely paid for hunt, besides you having to get there with thousands of dollars in gear and, you know, get some coaching from the ElkBros and get some training.
Look, Joe, I heard there was only like 12 or 1,300 people that put in for that hunt, man.
I think so. I think
That,
so.
so that's really good odds of drawing.
Oh, yeah.
Probably better odds than drawing anywhere else in New Mexico.
Well, or Colorado. I mean, they had like, 260,000 people put in for, you know, hunts.
Wow.
You know,
I think we saw them all too, Joe.
Saw a lot of them.
So speaking of, you guys have been getting emails from me. The success stories, the ElkBros
Oh my
Grinders success stories.
Smashing it.
Oh man, it is just so cool. So, and I want to put it out there. All of our grinders, if you're listening and you were successful this year, we want to shout you out, man. And we're going to do that. I'm going to shout people out right now. A bunch of stuff has been coming in, and let's go right down. Mark Camrath out of has a beautiful herd bull out of Casper, Wyoming. Man, I tell you what, this guy, you know, rocked a gorgeous herd bull. Cody Knapp painted a picture. He said he painted a picture, ended up with a 60-yard shot during the early rifle in Wyoming. So he went out there using our tactics. Colby Shaw from Morehead City, North Carolina. This guy is just down the road, just a stone's throw from where I was raised in Moyock. He gets it done solo. He actually was with the group. They didn't do good. They went home. He still had some days, flew back, man.
Wow.
Flew back and went and got it done solo. Daniel V. Hill. You guys remember Rafael Gonzalez? You know, Rafael Gonzalez. Remember, Luis, you said I messed up his name?
Yeah, you did again.
Yeah.
Rafael Gonzalez out of Pueblo, Colorado. Well, Rafael took his buddy Daniel, and they produced an elk, Luis. They produced an elk. Yeah, they got it done out there, man. Mike and this guy's like fellow Italian. How would you say this, Luis? Nardozzi. Nardozzi, right?
Nardozzi.
Mike. I was just chatting with Mike earlier. Mike is the bomb, man. From Chadds Ford, Pennsylvania. He had gotten a hold of me earlier, and there were 4 in his group coming out to hunt in New Mexico. And the guy bought the academy. He was listening to all the podcasts, sharing it with his buddies. They went 3 for 4 in New Mexico.
Wow.
What were they in, Joe?
3 for 4. Yep. Huh?
Cool.
You want to know what unit he was in?
Yeah, we can talk about that offline.
Well, you know, it's funny because I heard somebody that there was somebody that has a podcast that came and hunted in New Mexico. And there were people that were chastising him about saying what unit he was hunting in. But here's the simple fact is it's impossible to blow up a unit in New Mexico as far as number of hunters because it's a fixed number. It's not like
you can't get more.
Yeah, you can't get more people.
Just decreases your odds from the draw.
Yeah, that's all it is, you know, it decreases your odds when people put in for it. So yeah. We're still not sharing where we hunt, but This is so cool, man. Corey Vidas from Maui, Hawaii.
Oh man, that's too cool.
Corey, this guy gets a hold of me because he's hunting in New Mexico. Mahalo, Corey, man. And he comes over here and he starts getting the tips. He's an axis hunter in Maui. They love to hunt axis over. They hunt everything, man, over there. He just loves to hunt. Comes over and comes into New Mexico, northern New Mexico, gets it done on the last day. Sends me a picture with the,
Yeah.
yeah, he was stoked. Shane Anderson. It took Shane 6 years and he got it done. He said, I started as a lover. I moved to glunking and long muse, and man, and that bull, man, just came in and took care of it, got the work done. 6 years. And then he listened to what we did and got out there and got it done.
Awesome.
Yeah. John Calamaro of Nampa, Idaho. He goes to Washington and helps his brother-in-law, Mitch Baker, who's of Mount Vernon, Washington, take his first elk, a Rosie, 17 yards, man.
Wow. That's a hell of an encounter right there, buddy.
And he said that he he had it on video, but the camera didn't work, man.
Oh no, forgot to push record.
Yeah, it's one of those things you camera see, so
yeah, been there, done that.
Yeah. So, but and I told him, I was, Chav, how we say some things are not meant to be on video.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, just meant to be in your memory. And he says he can he can still see that animal coming out into the park and coming all the way across.
17 yards, Joe. What would I give?
17 yards, man.
Wow.
Yep. Awesome.
That's close.
Oh, also though, John wanted to give a shout out to Vinny Farrell, man, because Vinny is 65. Vinny left camp to hike all the way into where they were out to help finish the quartering and carried a 55-pound pack out. And, and he's like, Vinny kicked butt for the team that day. So he just wanted to give
I got to shout out my brothers too. They crushed.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Way to take it for the team there, Vinny, man. We all ride the river together. Jed Booth out of Wyoming. Jed said he had 18 years. He's hunted elk for, prior to this year, 20 years. Had 18 years of unsuccessful. Said he lucked into one in year 19. Now, Jed, I'd say that really doesn't happen, but he says he lucked into one. Then again in 20 he did not get an elk, so he dedicated himself to being a 10%er. He said he used the ElkBros resources, he bought the academy, and he said he changed his life, man, his elk hunting life. I don't know about the other life, but he said he called and killed a bull at 35 yards, man.
Wow.
35
awesome
yards.
Brother.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Yeah.
So 21 and 21 was the year, man.
Definitely.
Get this. I just had an email that just popped up on my computer that says success, exclamation point. Dylan Smith here from Kansas again said he wanted to drop a line to say thank you again for all the podcasts, and he got it done. You guys have got to see this. I got to share this for you, man, so that you can
because that wasn't in the list. So
I know
it's fresh off the press, huh?
It just came in. This is hot off the press.
Yeah, today is September 29th.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, wow,
Look at
dude. Look at
That's
that
a big
bull.
bull.
Oh man, where's he at?
Wow.
It looks like there's a little snow or ice on the ground.
Yeah, it looks like it possibly a little
beautiful,
frozen
man.
there, man.
Wow.
Look
Big
how
old- look
big
at the
that
big old
booger
bucket
is,
head,
man.
dude.
Ah, man, congrats. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Buddy.
Wow. That is a
He's a
cool
mean-
bull.
That is
he's a mean-looking-
beautiful.
Beto
That's
would
a
say that's a monarch.
7x7 there, y'all.
7x7. Wow.
Yep.
Big 7x7.
Yeah, big
Isn't
seven.
that awesome, man?
It is a monarch.
It's got that in Wyoming on the
Wyoming.
on the general tag.
Awesome. On
Yep.
the general tag.
Yep.
That's so cool, man.
Wow.
Isn't that awesome?
Congrats, man. Super.
Did he say how far he took him at, Joe?
Let's see. It does not say. It just says that they should have had one for Ryan and they'd have been 2 for 2. I'm sure we're going to get a story from him. Be
Looks
able.
like he got a high long, and I bet he didn't go very far.
Yeah, we'll
That'll
find.
be interesting score from that one.
You know,
Yeah.
here's the picture I want to show, because this is cool. Everybody's always talking about how hunters, they want to do the grip and grin and everything like that, right? I want you to see this. This is one of the pictures that he sent me. Look at here.
Yeah, buddy.
Look at that. Processing
Quality
the meat,
meat
man.
right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is
Better than that.
pure protein for life right there, man. So
Yes.
awesome, man. So that just came in. I'm sitting here talking, and so Dylan gets a shout out, man. And so let's see. I was at here we go. Greg
Mr. Crook.
Greg Crook out of Arizona just filled his bucket list. And I don't know if you read that. I don't think you've seen the emails yet, Gilbert.
I see a little bit of it. Yeah.
Yeah, he said he wants more Ornelas Unleashed. I was like, dude,
Don't they all?
We need more Ornelas Unleashed.
I was
He
like,
says
dude,
it's-
you don't know what you're asking for, man.
Might have to start our OnlyFans page or something, Joe. And we can go on that, dude. They got to pay for that content.
Well, and one thing I wanted to pay homage to Greg is that, see, he says they only get drawn for that tag in Arizona about every 7 to 9 years.
Oh, wow.
And he said that the last time that he got drawn, his dad passed away just before the hunt.
Yeah. I
And
remember
so,
that.
yeah, and so he got it done this time. And, he said it was really tough, thinking about his dad, but
Sure.
how cool is that he was. And he said getting an elk with archery equipment was my bucket list. And so, dude, you're gonna have to fill up that bucket and do something new. So
Yeah,
here we
man.
Yeah.
He said, I just wanted you to know, guys, that what you guys do is so important and it makes a difference. He said, it made a difference to me. Thanks, Greg. We appreciate it, brother.
Hey,
Congrats.
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 Congratulations, buddy.
And then Steve Puckett out of Frankfurt for Kentucky, and he said a thing. He said the real Flatlanders. About that one, man. He got it done solo at 12,100 feet.
Woo.
So the boy
Wow.
was way
Where
up there
was
on
he
top.
at?
Stay awake, Louise. Stay awake, man.
I didn't even know they could go 12,100 feet in Kentucky. He must have drank some of that good Kentucky bourbon.
No, dude. He wasn't in Kentucky, bro. He was in Colorado. Yeah, that's what you call getting high in
Heck
Kentucky,
yeah.
right?
Hell yeah.
That's what they need. They need a bourbon called 12,000 foot, right?
I like the
Oh,
name,
yeah.
Joe. Let's go ahead and just market it.
Hey, that sounds like a name, man. Chad Ashen, buddy.
Congrats,
Chad,
Chad.
man.
Well done, brother.
And one thing that most people know is Chad got COVID,
Wow.
and it whacked him at the beginning of the season. And he goes out, and he had seen a herd bull with a certain amount of cows. Goes back out later in the season, finds the same herd bull with like 50 cows now, and
Wow.
and he's like chasing this herd bull, and this other bull walks out in front of him, and he's like, "Yep,
Not
putting it
discriminating.
yeah." It's like not discriminating, man.
Heck no, we are equal opportunity elk hunters.
Yep. Nick out of Chicago, Illinois, first elk hunt gets it done. Oh, here's some names too. You might remember Bob Rothrock out
Yeah.
of Louisville, Kentucky. Jason Dolash out of Iowa. Remember, they were the group of 4 guys. It was Jason and Dean and Dan and Bob that were together. Those were the guys that sent us the
Trappistine guys.
Trappistine caramels.
Oh yeah. Yeah, man, we went through those at that
Yeah.
campfire
Oh, my
like
God.
there's no tomorrow,
Andy,
man.
They
That
never.
was so good.
I actually found one in my pants pocket that I
Yeah,
had.
you were probably stashing them away. That's where they
Well,
went.
hey,
Yeah,
man.
now we know.
I found one in my pants pocket and I ate it just the other day. Right? I should have took me a picture. Yeah, y'all didn't know I was smoking them suckers up in the mountain with me, dude.
Oh,
You kept me rolling.
Oh, big
I can
old.
see Beto like, ooh, what's this?
Yeah. My wife was like, "What is that?" I said, "Man, it's a caramel. You can't have that. That's for me."
Oh man. Oh, you're too much, dude. Well, hey, Bob, man, those guys got it done. Some beautiful bulls. I'm pumped for them.
Awesome,
Stephen
dude.
Richardson out of Springdale, Arkansas. He said, thanks to the base camp course, he is now part of the 10% club. It's his
Yeah.
3rd elk hunt, and it took him finally. He got it done.
That's
So,
cool.
Alex Claudel out of Hume, Missouri, 2nd year of elk hunting, and he scores in his 2nd year.
Nice.
Tyler Elston out of Utah, Justin Gotham, who out of Maupin, Oregon, that I just got off the phone with the other day to congratulate him. Shot him I think it looked like a spike. It might have had a couple things on there, but it looked like a spike bull that he shot out there. So I was real excited for Justin to get it done. Ben Thomas out of Utah. Last year, Ben, it was his first hunt, got it done. He's the one that's kept sending a lot of questions to us and asking about, calls and the difference between some of the calls. Is now 2 for 2. Ben he's on the Manano Grateron plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's streaking already, Joe.
Yeah. And I had to put it in there. I don't know if y'all saw, but the elk singer, Tony Wintrip, and his brother, man, they just went and, it's tradition in that family, got to go get it done. And they did. They knocked it out.
Straight out of Elk Camp. Tony Wintrip comes in with a nice bull.
Hey, man, he just doesn't sing it. He walks the walk.
And I've been listening. I've got his songs on my little deal in my car and just been listening to him. So
yeah, and Joe, I tell you, I listened to a bunch of our podcasts and stuff like that, and the music work on the back end of it on our YouTube's fantastic. So really good job.
Oh, well, that's the easy part. He does the singing. We just got to patch him in, and it's just so cool to have that to finish each show with him doing that. And it's funny because it goes to black and it just shows a picture of Tony. Mm-hmm. And dude, you just sit there and you hear those words and it takes you back. It's really cool. It's really cool.
Definitely. Well, you guys know what time it is. It's time for the ElkBros shout out. Shout out to a few cities with the most listeners, topping our charts this week, Joe.
Yep. First up, we got a message from our grinder, Colton, that wanted us to give a shout out to the only, and this is cool because it's unique. And a lot of people say, we don't give any love here. And I that's why I wanted to make sure it was here. To the only specialty muzzle loader store in all of Washington, and to owner Billy. So here's a big ElkBros shout out to the muzzleloader supply out of Paleute, Washington. Colton says it's a great place to get supplies, and the owner Billy is super helpful and knowledgeable. So if you're a muzzleloader in any part of that coast over there, go check out the muzzleloader supply out of Paleute.
Grinder approved.
Oh, and we've been gone a while and we've got some Apple reviews. And guys, man, thank you so much for all y'all that give us the 5-star reviews. Thank you guys. If you give us a 4, 3, 2, well, I'm not going to thank you if you gave us 1. Well, okay. Thank you too if you gave us a 1.
If you gave us a 1, I might have one for you.
Oh, Don't listen to him, man. Don't listen to him. Justin Gotham from Maupin, Oregon. You guys are awesome and as real as it gets. Landell89 said he would give us 10 stars if it was an option. Dude, Landell, you keep giving those reviews, man.
Just give us those 5 at a time. That's all good.
I bet you.
Nolo602 from Phoenix, Arizona is a new listener, and he's been binging all the way back to 2019.
Sweet.
But you got to be careful doing that, man. I mean, you binge too much of us too long. Surgeon General has warned.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, our first viewer. Buddy, we have evolved, no doubt. But listen, those first few, some of them, like our shot placement podcast and everything, that's freaking epic. They're still some of the best we've ever done.
I love our first podcast because it was our beginning, and
raw.
And there's a lot of things that we started that we found, like when we started doing these shout outs to cities, it just kind of happened by accident in those first ones, and it just built on. Remember, it was we did something like that, and I said it sounded like hee-haw. And so,
BR 549.
Yeah. Maxwell, New Mexico. And that was one of the reasons. My wife is from Maxwell, New Mexico. And Hee Haw, the television show with Buck Owens and Roy Clark, did a shout out to Maxwell, New Mexico. Population, whatever it was there, 600 or something like. What do you think the population was, Chav, at Maxwell?
Oof, maybe 200.
Really?
Not too much. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was, and for that town, it really was something personal. So that's one of the reasons we started doing that. Kind of goes all the way back to Hee Haw. Fish Hound says too much jabber, but he gave us 3 stars.
Sweet,
So,
sweet,
yeah.
man.
And,
You can scroll through the first 45 minutes there, Fish Hound.
yeah. Well, and like I said, with
That ain't going away, brother.
yeah, like I said, we are who we are. And he's spot on. We do all this stuff at the beginning. We like to pay tribute to our listeners in so many different ways. So we do it. And we hope you start listening to this part there, Fish Hound. We hope you're hearing it here. Boss Haas, finally, Teachers for Elk Hunting. He said he's going to make it happen this year. And then we had Desmo Durr called us the encyclopedia of elk knowledge.
You got that right.
Wow.
Say that louder for all the people in the back to hear, brother.
RC Vogel said that he doesn't really listen to podcasts, but he said this is like sitting around the table with us. And
that's what we
really
like. We like sitting around the campfire at Elk Camp, man.
Randy took our info into the field and called in 3 bulls. 2 came in silent, 1 screaming. So he took the 3rd one home.
Sweet. That's what we like to hear, Randy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was
you got to get rid of the screaming one. We don't want none of that around.
Yeah, man. Start rocking the boat.
Educating them.
Thin those ones out real quick, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what Cole Wilkes says? It says, I don't always
Kill a bull.
Yeah, I don't
But
always.
when I do, it's a dumb one.
It's a dumb one.
That's t-shirt material. Don't y'all take that away from Cole. He's already trademarked it.
Yeah.
JP out of Morgan, Tennessee. I was going to say JP Morgan. But
JP Morgan,
out of Morgan, Tennessee, used our tips and tactics to take a Colorado OTC 6x6. JP, send
where's the
photos.
pictures, man?
Yes, we want to see it.
JP Morgan. Let's go, buddy.
And now that we're getting back rolling again, guys, remember, grinders, if you want to be part of our show, you can send us a 15 to 20 second 20-second shout out video.
Hey, George, you got to remember we're rated PG-13 over here, okay?
Have you ever-
I mean, we're just talking about the unleash thing here. Just hold your horses.
I could have went way off the road.
Look, let me tell you what's really tough about doing what we do is we always use the word shot. And
Right.
whenever you're texting that, my thumbs, the I and the O are right
Real
next
close
to each
together.
other.
It's called subconscious.
And then you look back what you're telling somebody, like, oh crap, man.
I said crap.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you want to be part of the show, you can send a 15 to 20 second shout out video through a message on our Elk Bros Instagram, email. You can send it to me or any of the other bros that you have a clip, and you can just email that to us, or we'll give you a link so you can send it to our Dropbox. Now for the top listening cities. Chav, here we go.
Okay, and just to add to what you were just talking about, sending messages, send your photos to Joe also, and we'll put them on our wall of honor on the ElkBros.com site. Okay, top listening cities. This top listening city was named after the first merchant located in the present location. Nicknamed the Key City of the High Desert and the Heart of Oregon, it was founded in 1877. Since it was bypassed by the railroad, they built the country's first and only municipally owned railroad and flourished from there. Also, if disaster movies are your thing, this city lies right on top of a dormant volcano, the Crooked River Caldera. And this is Prineville, Oregon.
Prineville, Oregon.
Pineville, Oregon.
God, why you act like it's the first time you saw that, man? He writes all these things.
It was kind of moving on me.
He's got one of them computers, got a mind of its own, Joe,
I see.
Yeah.
like mine.
Yeah, what's interesting about the dormant volcano is one of the best elk hunting places in New Mexico is on another caldera,
Yeah, it's the Via Caldera.
the Via Caldera, and that's an amazing place.
Yeah, there's another one over in Capulan that's pretty good elk hunting too. That's a
Oh, really?
volcano. Yeah,
As a volcano.
yeah.
Oh, the volcano area over there. But
Mhm.
that caldera is a volcano that collapses inside itself. So
Just a
Gotcha.
huge valley, yeah.
yeah, it makes a huge,
Mhm.
and you can drive by that on the highway. It's on the south end of the caldera, the highway that's going to Jemez. And you look out there, people drive by it thinking that that's cattle out there. It's not.
Wow.
It's elk, yeah.
It's elk.
Wow.
It's elk.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it also borders the national labs where the atomic bomb was invented, I guess.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot of land that is not accessible to anybody except elk. So
And they're doing just fine.
yeah, prime elk country.
Cool. Up next, guys, this city is a suburb of Chicago and is 25 miles from the city's downtown. It's known for the Arlington Park Racetrack, home of the Arlington Million, a Breeders' Cup qualifying event. Nicknames include Action Heights and the City of Good Neighbors. The movie Nightmare on Elm Street with Freddy Krueger was filmed here at a local public school, John Hersey High School, in Arlington Heights, Illinois.
Arlington Heights.
Height.
So I wonder how many, people remember Freddy Krueger movies. I
Oh,
mean, that
man, I
was
do.
That's still on, isn't it?
Horrible.
Nightmare on it's horrible.
Yep.
Worse. I'm telling you, I can't watch those movies. It stirs my
Yeah, I
spirit
don't
the
like-
wrong way. Can't have it.
You scared
I don't like spooks movies. No. None of them spirit movies. None of that Exorcist. No Freddy Krueger, Amityville Horror. None of that. No.
Jason.
Can't do it. Won't watch it.
That's
Negative.
hilarious, dude.
Negative.
I've never been a fan of Nightmare on Elm Street just because.
No Jason either.
No.
Yeah, well, it's because you never win. It's like they always show up again. You know what I mean? It's like you get rid of them and they're back. It's
Yeah,
like,
even at the end, they
No
just
doubt.
left
You done
like
shot him
unfinished
44 times
business.
and he's
Yeah,
still coming
right.
back.
yeah.
Chopped his head off and it grew back. Yeah, no. Mm-mm.
This city in Colorado was named after a similarly named city in Pennsylvania. It became one of the most important coal towns in Colorado. In its early days, it was one of the only wet towns in the area, with well over 11 bars on one street in 1872. Floods in 1890, 1921, and 1972 devastated the town, but it was hit even harder by the eventual decline in coal output. The final mine, the Eagle Mine, closed in 1978, and that's in none other than Erie, Colorado.
Talking about spooky stuff.
Colorado.
Eerie.
Erie.
Colorado.
Yeah, it just followed right after Nightmare on Elm Street, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It maybe Freddy could show up there. But how cool is it that you had a school that they filmed that in, though? I mean, that part's pretty daggone cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it shows it to be just north of Denver there, Joe. Not even just north of Lafayette and Broomfield there. So it's not too far from Denver.
Huh. That's Erie. I feel because a lot of those coal towns, Raton, New Mexico, is one of those towns that
Oh,
when
really?
the coal mine shut down, it just devastates those towns,
Yeah.
So, yep.
Next up, this city is recognized as the resort area for Southwest Ohio. Kings Island Amusement Park, Great Wolf Lodge and Conference Center, and the Golf Center at Kings Island are among the prominent recreational destinations. Also, if you're a tennis lover, it has the largest tennis stadium in the world,
Wow.
the Lindner Family Tennis Center, home of the Western and Southern Open, which is one of the world's top tennis tournaments in Mason, Ohio.
Mason, Ohio.
Yes, so.
It's so cool to hear these things. Like we found out about Minnesota with the curling member like that. So different places that it was a place in Florida that had the horse tracks that it was so famous for there. So, I mean, it's really neat to hear that. I had no idea that it was the largest tennis stadium in the world. Mason, Ohio. Thank you guys for listening.
Up next, cattle and oil have traditionally been the primary industries for this area. The nearby Wardale Buffalo Trap is a canyon that was used by the Native American to trap bisons. Its potential archaeological value led to its listing on the National Register of Historical Places. Nickname of this city include Icebox of the Nation and Best People on the Earth. It has one of the coolest temperatures among inhabited location in the lower 48. It was named after the pines along the banks of the similarly named creek. Big Pine, Wyoming.
Big Pine. Or Wyoming in the house. That's one place I'd really like to try to hunt elk is out in Wyoming. Man, I just, you see the vastness of Wyoming and the beauty of it. And so it would just be, the fishing there is incredible as well.
Grizzly bears.
Yellowstone.
What's
Grizzly bears. Yeah. I'm out.
I don't do grizzly bear, Joe. I don't do grizzly. I don't do grease.
Maybe Arizona or Utah.
So Joe, is this you were talking about listening cities? Are we over 8,000 now?
Yes, sir. It's so funny. It just seems like we jumped right over 7 because I can remember like celebrating that we
5,000.
had over 6,000 cities listening, listeners in cities. And now we have listeners in over 8,000 US cities. And I think we're up to 78 or 79 countries. The countries are growing here as well. Want to thank everybody out there. That is it's phenomenal. And it's very, very humbling, and
For
when
sure.
we get these success stories from people in North Carolina and Arizona and Illinois.
That's the best. Yeah.
Man, in our our gram page has been blowing up with pictures, and it's been crazy, Joe. Our followers went through the roof, and us following people, it's been really cool to see that. Our followers on YouTube are really coming along. It's been awesome. So, got to thank all of our listeners and all of our grinders out there for showing your love for us, for sure.
Well, there were even people that didn't draw this year, or people that had a hunt planned, and things came up and they couldn't be there. And we'd get emails that, hey, thanks for having something for us to listen to week. We're living vicariously through you guys. So, they said, thank you for, keeping.
We know how you feel, brother. We've been living that way because Joe's been hunting the whole time. Dog.
Yeah, it's that's one
Don't
thing.
let him think that it's really a lot of work and everything, because Joe loves it anyhow.
Well, what's so cool is everybody saw my new bow that I got this year.
The nuclear bow.
Yeah.
And
you shoot it good, Joe.
The buddy that bought me that, I got to guide him, and he was last year he
killed an absolute giant bull.
Yeah, we called in a bunch of bulls that day and brought in a 343 bull to 27 yards, and he got it done. He always manages to make the track a little interesting, but but we got it done, man. Yeah.
So Joe, I wanted to ask you a question about that bull. That bull was dead bull as soon as he shot him, huh? He just thought he might have made it a little low, or do you think it took him a while to die?
That's just the thing, though. The shot was a little back. It was right at the level it should have been. It was a little back. I still think he either got both lungs or he got one lung and liver. So,
definitely did the right thing.
Absolutely. So anytime you have minimal blood and you have a hit that you're not positive of, I back out, man. And
never heard him go down or saw him go down or anything like that.
In fact, on the tracking job, when we tracked that thing, there were about 5 specks of blood. There were 3 at the beginning, and I found 2 towards the end. And we were following. I found 2 drips of water.
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
Did he get 2 holes, Joe?
He did. It was a pass through, but
oh wow.
But the problem is when you get that low pass through,
mm-hmm.
and sometimes that area, especially if it is gut,
Yeah.
You get the internals that can slide there and
Seal it. Mhm.
plug that up, and then the only blood you get is almost like cutting yourself. You know what I mean?
Sure,
Like
sure.
shaving. So followed a couple of water droplets and track, and it was only 145 yards. So backing out was good. He went down, laid down, and died. So we didn't have to worry about having to grid this time. So it was cool. That's
awesome, brother.
So tonight, the topic of tonight's show, and this is what everybody's coming to listen to right now, is we are, archery elk hunting, Colorado OTC. What worked for, and this is the ElkBros, because y'all, and I want to go ahead and put this out right away at the beginning, is that we were hunting in we hunted, it was one unit, one part of a unit in a large state that has a lot of things happening in it. So this is our view from our little microcosm there, man. It's not like we know everything that was going on in the state. But I can tell you this, some of the things that we were going through, I have a lot of buddies all over the place. A lot of people were going through these things. So we're going to talk about what worked for us, what didn't work for us, lessons learned, insights, and thoughts. So, and all of us had been thinking about some of these things, and I don't know where you guys want to start. You want to start on what worked, what didn't work?
Sure. Yeah.
What worked? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what worked and what didn't work for us, because I really think, and I heard this from people that you guys only hunt in New Mexico. You get out of New Mexico, it's going to be a different story. You're going to have trouble being successful. You're going to go someplace where there's the most elk in the country, but there's also the most elk hunters in the country. And I got to say that too, is that, OTC tags are kind of a blessing and a curse. They're a blessing in that people get to go elk hunting. They're a curse in that there's a ton of elk hunters out there. But that just because there are numbers doesn't mean that everybody's in the game, And
True.
There's, we were places where we saw camp after camp after camp. And let me tell you this. Here's another way I feel about it. It is so cool in September to see so many people out there enjoying the outdoors.
You bet, man. Enjoying it, and good people too, man.
Absolutely.
I got to say that, Joe, we encountered a lot of people, and all of them in Colorado were good folks, man. And look, they were from all over the country, not just there in Colorado, but from all over. We saw some boys from Texas. We saw a couple from Georgia. We saw, just from all
Louisiana,
over.
Missouri.
Everybody we bumped into at camp areas or on the mountains, great people.
Very
There's
good.
just there was no exception. For at least in my experience, the people I bumped into, there's no exception there.
Yeah. Had good experiences, even though they were disrupting sometimes, but they were real good experiences.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it depends on how everybody takes it, right? It's public land.
Look, we're used to that though, Joe. I mean,
absolutely.
We're used to having people in our set or calling hunters in or vice versa. I mean, that's part of it. But look what I think really led us off to what worked for us. And I got to say this, you helped me long ago about talking about how I would break a new lake down, going and fishing it and stuff like that. That really helped me tremendously hone into what we needed to do as elk hunters where we were at a new place. But it would have never happened without the e-scouting and the boots on the ground that Joe and RC and the Flatlander Cole Wilkes went and did beforehand. And listen, not just in one place, but in 3 or 4 different places. We actually set up camp on the other side of the moon, and then on opening day, decide to go to the other side of the moon and hunt that day, and then forego our afternoon after everybody was in elk, and forego that afternoon and go back and move camp in less than an hour and come back. But that would have never, ever happened, Joe, unless you guys and ourselves too. I mean, we all helped out with the e-scouting part of looking at the way the land laid out, everything else. But I mean, we used our base maps, we used Onyx, and we used fat maps and all of that stuff, not only pre-plan, but also while we were, dynamically working in the elk woods as well. So when you ask what worked, it all started off of all of our pre-planning and our planning while we were hunting, being able to make adjustments on the fly. That's what made us so successful
Versatile.
in versatile in the hunt. And that, number one, I got to give you the shout out for that, because you knew we needed to be versatile. In your podcast you just put out here this last week, you talked about having to find areas to be versatile, because
The e-scouting and the boots on the ground pre-work that took place, right?
unbelievable. And you knew we needed to do that because we had hunters from all walks. We had Chav that was going to need to have a specialized program. Myself, I need to be able to get to the top because I hate walking from the bottom. But at the end of the day, you looked at all of that and made the best decision for our group as a whole, not just out of what Joe Gilly could do or Cole or the Mafia or anybody else, but as a group, we were able to be successful in doing what we do best, right? And that is attacking an area, going in there and figuring things out as quick as we can and sharing information. What worked, we shared information and didn't covet things from one another and tight hole one another and stuff like that, which means holding information back,
And,
right?
it's funny because I've heard that mentioned a few times, but that's never even been a thought with me with our group. That's never, I mean, maybe from people from other camps but I mean, we've
it
never,
happens a lot.
yeah, we've never been that way. I mean,
and
it's an
that
all
was
for
the
one type thing,
agree, and that was the plan from day one. We were going to scatter, gather information, and make decisions based on that. I remember that first day, that after the first morning when we all met, I was like, I had it all tracked on my phone. I'm like, Joe, everything on that track had sign. So we're good anywhere on those tracks. I mean, we got good sign. And so that's what sprung the final, that plus everybody else's experiences that morning is what drove the decision for us to move camp.
Exactly. And look, Brendan and myself and RC got lost as a goose because we'd never been there before, never knew what the road system looked like or anything like that. So kind of got lost as a goose. And by the time we got over there,
what does that mean, bro? Lost as a deuce.
Yeah,
I was
I'm trying to picture the goose and just flying. I'm not getting it.
They don't get lost, Beto.
like a goose, man. So we were lost, man. And I say lost. We knew where we wanted to go, but we couldn't find a daggum road to go to it, So finally we see a little bitty old, crab trap road that runs off to the right-hand side. We get in there and it's doesn't come up daylight, so we feel like we're late anyway. And then look, brother, that's some of the biggest country I've ever hunted, and there ain't no place but up, son. And we hit it, went up there and got up there to that Aspen Park. And I mean, we ain't even made it 300 yards in there in our cow call, and a bull comes in running in silent, right? And we can hear him coming in, So, I mean, it was on from the get-go. We saw elk that morning, had 2 encounters, and we were like, and when
I saw elk every day.
Every day.
Talking about actually physically seeing them. We saw them every day.
But they were quiet. They were silent.
100%.
Not at first, bro. I want you to think
exactly.
about the first 3 days.
That very first day, we heard bugles right off the bat. Remember, Manano? Right off the bat.
They weren't pressured that day. I mean, it was the
first 3 days.
first day.
Yeah, the first 3 days it was pressure and it was weather. We had that cool weather, and then after that it turned really hot. Because I still don't think
more people kept coming.
But I really, I'm sorry. I still don't. I think if there was pressure, it was us, because I did not see a lot of dudes out there in the middle of nowhere. Honestly, I mean, like,
no doubt where we were wasn't a whole lot of people.
No, there wasn't a whole lot of people. I think
because it's hard as hell to get there.
I saw 2 hunters in that entire time, off of the beaten path. One of them had set up a blind on a wallow, and which I was real proud of this guy, because I mean, this gentleman was an elderly gentleman and had carried all kinds of stuff to set this up, and I'm telling you, it's off
elaborate,
the beaten path, man. And then the other guy who we called in twice, but that was the only ones really that we saw out there.
Manano and
Yeah,
I
look,
bumped
Well,
into
we
maybe
bumped
more.
into-
It wasn't easy
we
place to
bump
talk to.
into at
saw more
least
people.
four or five hunters.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And,
if not more.
and-
And actually, the first people we bumped into is actually a
family.
family from Florida.
Yeah, they
So
went
kudos
up
to
north
that
end.
family. It was awesome seeing dad,
Yeah.
mom, and son
Mhm.
hunting together up in the mountains.
Backpacking.
She
Back-
was,
Being out in the
Backpacking it.
bush.
yeah.
Yeah, hardcoring it. That's the I don't know if I can pronounce their last name properly, but it's the Diefenbach Diefenbach family. So
But to me,
Yeah.
but when you go into like 5 people that are hunting together, I consider that one hunter encounter because they're together. It's not like
yeah,
Well,
but we saw
let
probably
me,
5.
Let me tell
then.
you, Joe, what about the scent? I mean, 3 guys, 4 guys hunt together.
I-
It's no one hunter.
You're just talking
I mean-
about encounters of encountering people.
Yeah, but it,
Yeah, it's one group though. It's not
Yeah.
just one hunter.
right.
Yeah,
And
they're all in a
and
set
yeah, they're
together.
leaving stuff behind in the woods and everything like that. But I just, I did not see any more hunting pressure there. In fact, I saw less hunting pressure there than I see at home where I hunt. Really.
yeah.
I mean,
Well, we're
I-
lucky because we're removed from that a little bit, right? Where we were, when you drive out of camp and there's 30 camps right down the road from you, that's a lot,
Yeah.
but we're removed a little bit from that. Okay.
well, because
So-
the area is so dang big, man. And
For sure.
And so let's talk about, when you talked about things that worked and didn't work, you
Yep.
talked about the e-scouting. Well, I want to bring up the
100%
other
worked.
side of it is that if all you did was e-scouting, or even if all you were doing was looking at your base map or your Onyx or whatever, it lies to you, man, because you
No
get in
doubt,
this country,
dude. It's stuff like that, dude.
you get in this country where we're at, and it was incredible, these like bowls that existed in
Yeah.
it, and you could never know that they existed.
See them.
And they
except
looked
for
little, but they
Satellite
were
views,
big.
satellite views made them look like a bunch of little meadows. But
Yeah.
when you were going in them, you were
300
going
yards.
up and down,
Yeah,
up
yeah.
and
but
down, like that.
over crap, all kinds of
Yeah.
deadfalls and
Yeah.
you name it. Thank God it had mulberries and all kinds of
So-
other berries up there. we
So
could
here,
get
the thing that I'm
apple.
seeing is like when you look at the topography on some of those maps, you can see where, okay, it's showing a topo line and it looks like everything's kind of smooth sailing to a point and then it goes up and you expect it to be steep. But what you don't see is in that smooth sailing is there's a little crevice here, there's a little this
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
It doesn't show you that kind of detail. So you really have no clue what that area actually feels like and looks like unless
Till
you
you
get
put
boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can have a general idea of where it's really going to get steep.
Yeah, because
Or-
of the grade. Mhm.
Right.
That's
Or
where that fat map really came in, helped
Oh.
me and RC too find where we bailed off of places.
Uh-huh.
Instead of going straight down them benches, you could see where those fingers would run out and you could just run down those side of those benches instead of going straight up them. And we really didn't figure that out till later on in the hunt,
What's
but
cool about Fat Map too is that you can actually, like you were talking about with that, when you look at those gradients on there and it colors it blue and stuff, you can actually find the best route to go from one
definitely.
to another without feeling like you're dropping off the daggone wall there. I mean, and what was cool was, I'm going to show it sometime, but I found a hole in an area simply by using Fat Map that nobody thought they could get into, but by using Fat Map, I was able to see the color aspects that actually led me to get into a secret pass, basically, to get into
Mhm.
this area that most people didn't have. They don't know it exists. And went into there, not a soul was there. So that was great. So that's one thing. The e-scouting was good on what worked, but what doesn't work is it really doesn't give you that. That's why I'm telling you, boots on the ground mean a lot. Like you said, Gilbert, also sometimes the trail systems and the roads lie to you.
No doubt.
On-
Yeah, they were non-existent on a lot of our mapping.
Mhm,
And
right.
boy, I'm gonna tell you right now, if you can do anything to help yourself and understanding where those travel corridors off those ridges are, if there are trails that you can travel with an ATV or a UTV, you really cut down the miles on your feet, and also be able to retrieve your animals too by being able to use those and get in and out of there undetected, man.
And I'll tell you another thing, man, is that we all have base map, but I guarantee you almost all of us have fat map, and almost all of us have Onyx, because we use multiple resources.
Dude.
And guys, I'm just telling you, if I want you to take a look at what you spent in gas alone to get, you know, a certain, or in one meal, or what you spend for one jacket. And I'm just telling you, man, to get those resources, those different map ones, I would buy Onyx, I would buy base map, I would buy fat map, because like when you looked in some areas at Onyx, it was like a snow picture, and you would look at it in base map, so the green, and you'd look at, I mean, every picture would give you a little different detail. One would give you better road systems than the other one would.
I stayed up 3 hours one night, knowing that I had to get up early the next morning, but I also knew if I found a route up to the top of that ridge, I wasn't going to have to start at the bottom.
And you found it, right?
I did, and I marked it with my little deal, and I told RC we're going to that ridge, and we started in, and knew we were going to be in them early because we could get there. We parked about probably 3/4 of a mile where we wanted to start, and we parked the bike there, and it was pretty, I won't say flat, it was still uphill some, but not like that, you know, where you're coming up from a lot of them. And we struck out there on that morning and got on those elk at first light, you know, and was on them, you know, and had an encounter where we called some bulls in. And I mean, it just meant the world to me to be able to find out how efficiently, and look, like I said, man, I'm not as agile as some of these guys. So being able to use that road system to get me to them is a big deal.
But I want to ask you a question, Gilbert. On the day that you shot your bull, where did you guys start from?
From the dead bottom, brother.
Okay, so
there's no doubt. But
so
look,
Cole and I
asked the boys. I went in as deep as I could.
But and so that's why I wanted to bring this up, because I really, Cole Wilkes and I were just up in that area just, you know, the other day, and when we were up in there, I looked at Cole and I said, you know what, I got to give it to Gilbert, dude, because that fella got up here and got it done, and it's not. I mean, it's how's Gilbert put it? It's a what?
It's a hike.
It's a
hike. It's a hike, brother, and it's dirty. I mean, dirt. Brendan was cussing me as we put, you know, he had a bad wheel anyway.
It's up both ways.
Big O. This is horrible, man. What are we doing here? I said, well, we can't kill them standing there looking up, son.
We were the morning before.
We were there.
I give you a hard time, dude, because sometimes, you know, there's certain hills I do, and when you get done talking about them, they're like mountains and this and that. But dude, you went up, man. You made it happen on that day, because
we did it the last day too from the other side. We came from the other side, which is even steeper, you know. So, man, look, like I said, I'm going to, while I'm there, I'm going to push it as hard as I can go.
That was cool.
But if I can find an easier route to get me there, man, I got a lot more in the tank if I ain't got to expend it all by 8 o'clock. You know what I mean?
Well, that's another thing too, is people remember that if you're hunting and you're going by the wind, you can end up in places that you never thought. If you just put your head down to go to some place, it becomes work, and you end up passing elk. And so, you know, to get out there and hunt your way to it.
Yeah, we hunted our whole way, man. And then look, these guys know I got one speed. It's low gear, 4-wheel drive.
Only one speed.
But I'm gonna get there, man. And look.
So I'm gonna segue us, man. I'm gonna segue us to strategies, because I had somebody that came up and they asked us, and this is what I was hearing from people, is that elk were talking for the first 3 days, and then it went quiet, and yet you guys were successful. And they were like, how did you overcome the quietness? So ElkBros do what we do. We didn't change that, right? Now we adapt to it. So let's talk about, since we have the mafia here that both these guys killed out, let's talk about what worked for you guys. How did you guys overcome the quietness?
We're we realized pretty quick after the second day they were pressed, and then they were, going up, but they were silent. So after the second day, I said to Luis, hey, let's go to the wood really, really slow. Let's, walk, and let's call from time to time, and let's stop just to hear the woods. And
But Manano, let me ask you a question though, because this is real critical, because you said let's work less slow. You wouldn't have done that if you didn't feel like there were elk in the area, though.
no, we saw sign.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were seeing fresh sign, right?
Yes, but they were silent. Like, they were quiet.
Yeah. So let me back up a little bit, because the first 2-3 days, with the first day we heard him bugle. The following day,
it wasn't a bunch of bugles. It was just
a few.
Yeah, correct.
A few.
But that first day we had, when we got to a certain altitude, we had a lot of encounters. We had about 2 to 3 encounters kind of within the same area. I was calling in a bull for Manano, who winded us because the wind changed on us. Then there was another group of elk.
And he was coming. I saw him at 30 yards.
And then there was another group of elk, and I tried to call those back because we spooked them. And then when I was trying to call them back, I got another younger elk bull coming from behind me, who, when I tried to turn, he spooked. So, I mean, we were in elk.
We were in elk. Because when I went with you, I think it was 3 days or 4 days later, they were still bugling, because we had some bugling that day.
We had some. And then so, but again, most of the encounters that we had on the first few days were happening because of the calling, and because we knew we were in areas where elk were at certain altitudes.
So when you say because of the calling, what kind of calling, Luis?
So as we were walking about, we were cow calling, and there were some areas that were really hard to navigate, and we were making a lot of noise, right? And so we happened to spook a lot of elk. So thus the reason why we transitioned to, when Manano is like, man, it seems like we're spooking a lot of elk. What if we just go quiet, and then, just go very silently and stop and listen, and to just walk a little bit and stop and listen and just listen to the woods. And I said, okay, well, I'm down for that strategy.
Going totally silent, no calling, just
totally silent, no calling for the first half a day. Yes.
So like whitetail hunting, basically.
Right. True.
Yes, for the first half.
We cow call a little bit, just a little bit.
Not that morning, because we said that morning we were going to try without. And then I grew impatient by half of the day. I'm like, dude, I get it that we need to be quiet, but we need to call. And man, I'll be damned if I threw a cow call and immediately a cow responds right above us, turns around and runs away, and they were right there. And so we're like, man, so at least we heard something. And so that's when we were like, okay, what if we just kind of combine this and then say, let's try to walk really slow, cow call when we make noises, to try to avoid spooking stuff, and then every so often stop and then listen, and then go from there, because we knew at that point that they had stopped talking. So it was more trying, because it happened to us a few times where we would be calling and they will come in running towards us without making a sound except for running. So Manano was able to hear them coming from far away. I wasn't. And sometimes we weren't ready for when they were coming. Right. So that's how we kind of transition into, okay, let's do this and see how it works.
Well, a point I want to make to our listeners, though, that is important to remember, and I've watched y'all style and what you're doing, and I understand exactly what, I mean, it's like I said, it's the same thing that we use back home. But whenever you are cow calling and you're making noise when you're walking, that noise actually sells the cow call as well, because noise. Now, what needed to happen, and where Manano really came in huge, was, well, when you were walking and making the noise and cow calling, that sold the call to bring animals into you. But when you stopped and having the ability just to be quiet and let those animals catch up to you and hear them coming in. Because Manano was incredibly patient and had the ability to go, no, wait, they're still there. They're still coming. When a lot of times you would have thought, oh, they're gone, you know.
They're gone.
And he's like,
Yeah.
no.
He could hear them.
He could hear them. They're there. They're coming. Be patient. And it was so cool that Manano was like, be patient, you know, they're still coming. And sure enough, eventually they would show up. You know, that was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that worked for RC and I as well. I mean, we just weren't patient enough at times, which was what happened. I mean, we called that bull in and might have called him in the first big park we were in, and he just kept coming because he kept hearing the herd moving. You know, Joe.
The strategy, bro, because since we were talking about that, you know, and so what Luis and Manano were doing, were moving through area that they knew there was elk. They were cow calling at times, and you threw some bugles out every now and then too, right?
Yes. As a matter of fact, that's how we located my bull on day 6.
And what about the first cow we met?
That you shot?
No. The one I shot and I almost blew my bow.
So should we talk about the dump strategy then? I mean, I'd have to
dump strategy is a must. I think, but I don't know if I want to be just kind of share that yet. It's not patented.
We worked at least that cow 45 minutes, right, Luis?
Oh yeah,
at least 45 minutes.
Yeah, but they never talked, right?
But
so
I was
they were silent.
farther away. I was able to hear them. So, but it was like 45 minutes.
I stayed. So the way this happened is we got to the top of this ridge, and that's the ridge that Beto's talking about. Yeah. And then, so that was the day before Beto got his kill, and we're up there, and when we get up there, it was beautiful. It was perfect morning. The wind was perfect, and we're like, you know what? Let's just make a few cow calls here and maybe throw a bugle and see what happens. And all of a sudden we hear branches breaking. Well, Manano hears them like in the direction where they're at. So the wind was perfect. And so he stayed there, and then I backed out, using kind of that, because we were at the top of that ridge, and I was using the topography a little bit to kind of hide myself, be able to see Manano, because I knew Manano was actually,
going forward,
having eye contact with the cows. So at that point I was like, okay. I started cow calling, just slow playing it. And then all of a sudden I was like, okay, what's working? And then I threw a bugle, a young bugle, and I heard some branches. I'm like, maybe that's, so I'm trying to watch Manano to see his reaction based on what I'm doing, so I can do more of that, and then I started raking a tree. And so again, I was trying to play it as if there was a young bull there with a few cows.
And when you say that you sounded like a young bull, what does that mean? How did you?
Yeah, I didn't put a lot of aggressiveness in the
passive.
Yeah, it was a bit more of a location bugle, and it was kind of short, not something really extended out.
It didn't work because it came running.
It came running.
So and if it's really short, it's actually more of a roundup. And
right.
And the thing is it sounded like a young bull doing a roundup. So you really didn't add the voice inflection like the.
Correct. No. I was trying just to kind of be more harmonic with it. And then they came running. We had that event that you all heard on the Campfire podcast, and then after that, we decided to take a break. We all went to take a dump. They came back.
And that's the dump strategy.
They decided to look at Manano when he was taking a dump.
There goes the theory of the family of 5. Y'all should have just told them, do you guys have to go to the bathroom? Because now's the time,
Yeah. So no shot opportunity there. Manano comes back and he was like, did you see them? I was waiting for you to shoot him. I was like, no, I was taking a dump too, man. So Manano was like, they're still down there. So we went down that ridge kind of to where they were, staying behind, working the wind.
Let me stop you there. Can you picture myself, naked from the bottom half.
No, I can't.
No, we don't want to.
We don't
picture.
have to picture
Yeah.
this.
No,
We don't
thank
even
you.
want that. thing, son.
I was like, I was frozen, man. Just watching.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, this guy was not 5 yards from him, right?
What did you have an
Listen,
arrow knocked?
5
Let me ask
yards.
you, when you're taking a dump, did you have an arrow knocked?
Oh, and the
No.
bow was not even close. The bow was
No.
like
That's
20
a
yards
problem.
away.
That's a
Yep.
problem, right?
Yeah.
there.
We
Now
didn't
you
realize
got to
that.
knock an
What if a
arrow
bear
and
would have
hang the
come
bow
out?
up there.
You know.
Oh, yeah, not good.
Mhm.
So,
You threw the bow at him, Joe.
so we went down trying to find these cows, and again set up again with the wind coming up towards the ridge. The cows were going down. Manano is halfway between me and the cows, and I start cow calling again, trying to use the same technique. I say, well, if I brought him once, maybe I can bring him the second time.
Yeah.
Well, Manano soon realized I went quiet because all of a sudden I heard branches cracking behind me. There was a bull coming right behind me at 18 yards.
Yeah,
And
I was like
frontal.
40. I drew on him, but I
Frontal,
couldn't get a
no
shot.
shot, turned around, no shot. And by the time Manano drew, he didn't like, the wind was going towards him. He smelled
Yeah.
us and he took off. That's the same bull that Beto shot the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So if we
he was full of mud and
And,
beautiful bull.
clarifying like your strategies and your thought processes and everything that you did. So when you were doing that, one of your strategies was also to watch your shooter, because your shooter had eyes on the animal and watch
Absolutely.
how that he was reacting to that, and hopefully getting, because if I remember correctly, you guys talked about how at one point your signals, you had none and it was hard to
Mhm.
understand each
Yeah,
other.
and we were
And-
discussing about to have some sort of a communication between the caller and the
Yeah.
shooter, and
It would be
I-
great
I
to have
sent
some
out a
sort of
video
like,
before we left on that. Did somebody watch that or what?
yeah, but I mean, it's just, sometimes the topography doesn't help, the branches, even, I
Right.
mean,
Sure.
we're
Yeah.
nicely camoed, man. It's hard. It was hard for me. Like when I moved and tried to kind of walk and made noises and break
yeah.
branches, I would turn around. I was like, whoa, I
Where'd he
lost him.
go?
Where the heck did he go? So it's hard to, we were just thinking, it's like, man, it would be nice to have some sort of Bluetooth
Yeah.
device that is just kind of like them earbuds that you can just, talk to the other person. You don't need
communicate,
a cell phone signal. Like that would
But
be
body
awesome.
language, watching the body language of your shooter when you're
Yes.
the caller is critical, because you're right. They can
Definitely.
you can tell if it has something, because that
What
last
works
year when I
or-
called that bull in from Anano and I saw him go to full draw,
I
and he
threw a
got full
bugle
draw.
when he,
and he's at full draw, I realized that animal's locked
Hung
up.
up.
The cow call, he takes a step and it's over. So
Mhm.
yeah, there's ways that you can help out just by watching the body language on there. Now, Gilbert, your strategy, talk about your strategy, how you overcame the silent.
Yeah, look, we learned real quick by talking with the mafia and in our assessment that these bulls were using the tops of these ridges that were going in and out of water. So we knew if we could get
Okay,
around
Beto, who was the one telling you to go there?
well, you and Luis, Manano first, and then Luis talked to me
Beto,
after.
I would accept it.
What do you mean,
accept
dude?
Beto,
It's
this
the
one,
truth.
I won't pass this
Yeah,
one, Beto.
Beto,
I'm
you're gonna
telling
have
you.
to, have to buy him a mug that says bananas.
I told you first. Okay, Manano, you told him
Yeah,
first.
so-
Okay, Gilbert.
So look, but what I did was use it
He's
in a
It's not
totally
fair. It's not fair, man.
what I used is in a totally different area where RC and I started. Same thing with Luis being able to see Manano. I called in some bulls for RC that hung up on us because we knew there was a little Tranos that run through there.
Nice.
And we
Beto,
needed to get past that. We knew it too. Man, RC and I talked about it when we were setting it up, and we put Brendan down in front by the Tranos. We're like, man, we need to
Find
get on
that for our
other
listeners
side.
that haven't heard that. What
Oh,
is
Jesus,
It's
man,
like a little
find
creek
another
channel
word.
or a little gorge that runs in between.
a Trinosh?
Yeah,
Tranos.
Tranos. And
Tranos.
so anyway, we knew that was a barrier. Okay, Joe. But if we got any deeper, it was going to sound like a herd of buffalo coming off of that ridge, up another one, and getting right in their kitchen. So I had enough. I had enough confidence in my calling ability to be able to suck them over to us. Right. The thing is this was still early in the hunt, and we didn't know how call shy They really were. And what I mean by that is they just didn't come when they had openings. They were going to look first before they came pouring in.
Absolutely. I mean, elk are going to do that anyway, right?
For sure. And they ran to the side of that ridge. And when they ran to the side of that ridge, looking down on us, I saw RC Knox turn immediately. And when he did, I just went the other direction and started calling, sound like a herd bull, or it sounded like a bull with a cow that was in heat. And I just kept walking away, man. I got 200 yards from them.
And how did you do that, bro? How did you sound like a bull with a cow in heat?
Yeah. So, man, look, I at first I just
Very carefully, right?
Yeah. At first I just started the display deal, where we panting and we started glunking and then, getting him worked up and a little bit of stuff like that. And then some cow calls that were more insistent. Hey, bull, come with me. Right. I mean, more, and then little contact buzz and that, calling the bull to them, and then
that insistent emotion to what you're doing, being kind of demanding
buddy.
with that.
Come on, buddy. And
Yeah.
so the bulls responded. They came right towards RC. And when they stopped at the edge of the Tranas,
Grinders tuning in, thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Podcast. Our goal is to share our knowledge and help you flatten that learning curve so that you too can have some of the very same incredible experiences that have given all of us here at ElkBros a lifetime of memories. If you like what you hear or see, you can get all of this information plus so much more from our Base Camp Elk Hunting Training Camp, the first in a series of online courses from our Blue Collar Elk Academy. Our Base Camp Training Camp allows me to use my coaching style and share almost 40 years of elk hunting experiences successfully hunting elk on public lands, as well as over 20 years guiding hunters of all ages and experience levels. This course will be like nothing you have ever experienced in concept and structure, using success-based coaching techniques that will elevate your confidence and skill sets. Our camp will prepare you specifically from that final moment most in your control, those final minutes or seconds the elk is in front of you, backwards through each step and level, allowing you to see, visualize, understand, and relate every coaching point to what lies ahead, the next step, the next thought process, the next success. Because y'all, you've already been there. You know what it looks like. By tapping my 30 years of teaching and coaching experience, our camps are developed considering multiple learning modes with text, visuals, audio, as well as video. And Base Camp will benefit those new to elk hunting all the way to the 10 to 15 year vet. So if you are looking for that one thing to help you fill that tag this year, invest in the most important piece of equipment there is, you and your elk hunting knowledge. You can find the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Academy and the Base Camp Training Camp at ElkBros.com. That's ElkBros.com. Keep dreaming of the screaming, believing in achieving, and most of all, keep grinding.
they stopped right up there and they were looking like, okay, where's the elk? Where the heck are they? So we knew it could happen to us. It did. But while we came back to camp and talked to Manano and Luis, they were, they elaborated on these ridge tops. And we keyed into that early, is these ridge tops that led to water were going to be key transitional areas, right? So when Manano and them said they were going to another area, I said, well, look, y'all been in elk every day. One thing I've learned above all else is you don't leave fish to find fish. And for it's the same scenario with fishing. I went straight back into that area where they had some success and some encounters. And when we got in there, man, we just started putting on a scenario. And those scenario calling was the ticket for us, right? And what I mean by that is everything was really slow. It just sounded like herd talk and some cows. And then we just escalated that from there and into a breeding sequence. And what we wanted to do is we knew those elk were quiet, hadn't heard any bugles after the second or third day, and we knew that pressure and hot weather and everything else was coming upon him, and I knew that water was going to be key. And so when we found that water hole there on our e-scouting, right, we knew that was 2-3 benches from the bottom, and look, it was treacherous getting there. But when we got to the first one, RC had to take a dump. So another dump technique. Okay? RC goes and takes a dump, and I'm telling you, Brendan said, "Man, I heard a bull. I think I heard a bull answer you, but he was a pretty good ways off." Well, let me tell you something about that country. That country's so big that if you hear a bugle at all, he's close. Because I'm telling you straight up, those bulls would sound a long way off because of the topography that they were dealing with. A bench below you, you might even not hear that bull, right? And it's just a bench below you, 200 or 300 feet, and you may not hear him at all, especially if you're up there in that thick stuff. So we didn't really understand that till as we kept hunting deeper. Well, when we put on the scenario, that's when Brendan heard that bull. And then I went back. We climbed another bench to the very top around that wallow, and we did it again. Well, man, it wasn't, we hadn't given it 15, 20 minutes, and those ducks flew in to the wallow, and I just happened to start filming the ducks. And, again, not giving it really enough time and being patient. And I happened to look to my right, and here he comes just walking in looking for the party. He's looking for, hey, man, where in the hell are all these elk? I've been trying to catch them from the bottom. I've been letting them know I was coming, and probably we never heard him from the bottom again. And he just kept following us. What really blows me away is I know we left scent coming up that ridge, and he must have either came in above us where he never caught our scent line or something, Joe, where we were walking, and he walked right in there on us.
I still don't think, I don't know. I just don't think human scent that's been through an area that's after it's been old, that's not fresh. I really don't think in those areas, because of the amount of people they cross. I mean, look where we were finding elk. We were finding elk 3/4 of a mile from where everybody was camping, that everybody was driving by, that everybody was.
Yeah, but there's a reason why they're driving by, because ain't nobody wanted to walk their fat ass up there.
No,
it's tough. It's tough.
Besides, between us and where Chad was at was very great country. It was good country to walk, but people were going like elk have to be up at 10,000 feet. They have to, and they're driving right by this area. These elk are smelling camps, dude. Yeah. And they're right there. They're not that far. So I just that whole thing of scent, I think he could have gone over where you guys have gone through, and it would not freak him out. I just feel that way.
Well, but the good thing is we were savvy enough elk hunters to set up on the downwind side of that wallow, right? If we had set up on the upwind side of it, we were hosed, right? But we sat up in the right and sat up in the shade, not in the sunlight. I mean, we were really good. He couldn't silhouette us. And when he came walking in there, the Three Stooges commenced to having a free-for-all to try to get an arrow knocked up. And I mean, it was comical. But all of what we did, the scenario calling in those areas, in the transition areas between the wallows and their bedding area, and I'm going to tell you straight up, those elk lived right there. They didn't just come in there for a little while or whatever. I believe that was a bedding area for a lot of them.
Oh, I think that ridge up above it was absolutely a bedding area, because
100%.
I mean, when we started working that, myself, Manano, and Luis, you got up there, and once you hit right up towards that top side of that, those elk were bedded up in those areas. Yeah. They were very comfortable. They were getting all their thermal regulation, and they could drop down into the wallows. They could go up to the other lakes that are there. It was absolutely, I mean, it was a thick area in there.
The vegetation, the grass,
unbelievable feed,
right on the line.
And that's what we communicated the first day, because we were in that area the first day, and we're like, they're here. This is it.
Another coaching point that I wanted to give out of what Gilbert is saying, though, is it's real important for those people, is that, look, anytime you stop to call, anytime you stop to look, anytime you stop to scratch your neck, I don't care, always stop in a place where you have shooting lanes and a shooting ability around you. Don't stop so that you have a tree in front of you or that you have branches around you.
Yeah.
Get and always stop where you have, because it always seems like when you stop, and let's say you have a conversation, let's say that you're going to pull out something. It seems like whenever you stop, or you're going to call, or you're trying to think, or you're looking at your base map and figuring things out, that's when elk have an opportunity to catch up to those sounds that they've been walking through.
Yes.
And a lot of times they come into your shooting area and you're not ready because
if we'd have been standing there in the middle of that walla instead of
man.
moved off to the downwind side up in the aspens, I'm telling you, we're hosed, dude. You know, he's going to walk just up on that side of that ridge and see us standing there shining like a diamond in a billy goat's tail end. And I mean, it is going to be Katie bar the door. He's out. You know what I mean? But we were smart enough to move over there on that side and film the ducks. You know, I mean,
yeah. Well, and again, you guys are filming the duck, and people don't realize this. And this is what Manano was trying to actually say, is that sometimes and when you say slow, people think that you're moving through the woods slow. Slow means you stop at times and listen.
Yes, 100%.
You know, you can
Listen.
move, and then when you move to an area that is a new sound area, a new it's like casting your pole, right? When it's a new area that you're casting those sounds, after you've casted those sounds, stop, let it marinate. You know, let that bait fall to the bottom.
Buddy.
Feel that string to see if you get it right. And that's what Manano is saying, is that it, and I don't want it to be misconstrued. When he says it, be slow and listen, it's not that you have to stalk through the woods.
Patiently.
I mean, you can walk through the woods making cow calls, and that gives the illusion of cows are moving through.
Yeah.
That point, just like the elk do, the elk stop and they eat. They stop and they listen. You know, you have to do as the elk.
Yeah.
Stop.
Look, and when RC and myself and Brendan would move through the woods, we were cow calling the whole time, because I mean, we sound like I heard a buffalo coming through there, crashing through stuff. But I've been with Joe many, many years, and we snap a twig or a big branch, we're gonna let out a few cow calls, like it's a herd coming through there. It's a few cows that are making their way. And
when we do spot on stock on hogs in public land, we can't call them. We just have to be kind of walk silently and then stop and listen, because all you hear is
the hogs, they walk pretty fast and then stop and listen like 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and then walk again and listen.
Yeah.
That's
I want to give an
strategy.
observation about the animals, though, that's kind of important to say. And again, this was our area, but and I've never seen it like this before. I mean, I never myself ever saw over 2 cows.
Agreed, Joe.
It was like,
either.
like 1 cow here. And I'm like, really? 1 cow?
Yeah.
I've never seen this time of year. I've never seen 1 cow by itself, where I'd see a cow and a calf, where I'd see 2 cows. Chav saw one time, he saw, I think, how many cows do you see, Chav?
I think the most at one time was 5 cows.
5 cows he saw.
We saw 20 elk that day.
And a small bull. Total, I saw all kinds, but
we saw
they were
6.
small
We saw
groups.
6 elk together coming down the mountain when we were
That's
taking a
giant
nap on our
group.
hammocks.
That's a herd.
Yeah. But that was like the biggest group that you would see.
Yes.
And for us, where we hunt in New Mexico, that's a small group, man. That would be that. And this is the other observation, was it seemed to me like there was a younger age class overall of bulls. There were a lot of rag.
Yes.
And not a whole lot of older, mature bulls. I wasn't seeing that. And I'm seeing like a raghorn with a single cow, and so like when you're walking through now sounding like a herd, in that area, it was almost a little different, but it was really weird to me to see that. I'd see 1 cow and I'm like, okay, I'm ready for the cow and the bull and the other cows to show up. And
Well, that goes to show the day that we were hunting together, based on that knowledge, we soon realized that being very aggressive and sounding very mature with the bugles
Yeah,
may
yeah,
have been
killing.
scaring them off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They're all like, hey,
So
Like they felt, it seemed like big bulls in that area are not common, and everybody else is afraid of them.
Absolutely. So let me tell you what does not work. So we're moving through the woods, and we've gotten up to a certain stage, and we get a response. We get a bull that gives us a light bugle and a little cow call. We hear the cow call. So we set up, and Luis goes back behind me, does a little bit of some displaying back there, and Manano is behind me filming. And I was like, there they are. He's like, and there is a cow. I can see the cow first.
You were talking to Luis. I was
because I'm signaling to Luis which calls, because I know that these animals. So I'm trying to signal which calls for him to do. And Manano, and I've already seen the cows coming, and Manano's going, Joe, and I'm like, Manano, I see him like that, Joe, right there. So here's the thing. Let me show you where my big error is that having been instinctive all these years and shooting a bow with no let off, I've never drawn really early, be ready for an animal coming through. So when I see that cow elk coming and I can see the bull right behind him, there is an immature bull right behind this cow, and this cow is coming straight at me. It's a complete frontal coming at me, and this bull is right behind the cow, licking the air as he's falling. And it's a very immature bull. And well, in that situation,
very legal.
Very legal. Yes, he was a legal bull. But in that situation, I've always talked about, if you haven't been able to draw, scream a bugle and draw at the same time. Well, let me tell you what, that might work with mature bulls. But when you have an immature bull,
I got scared watching the video.
They were like, I don't know, 5 yards away, 10 yards away.
Yeah, it was 7 yards away, I think, that cow came to. And I was like, something's got to get. Now, and Rob Canales had a bull 18 yards. And Rob looked at me, and then after he says, Joe, when a bull is right on top of you, how do you know when to draw? How do you know what to do? And I told Rob, look, it's not always an answer because there's so many variables. Here I am with a cow coming straight at me, and my head is spinning because I've got a frontal. I'm not drawn at that time. A bull's right behind her. She's coming in, 15 yards, 10 yards, all the way to like 7 yards, 5 yards. It wasn't that far. I mean, I could have thrown something and just hit her just like that. And so I do my instinctive thing. I bugle and draw at the same time. Well, let me tell you what happens.
It scared old Freddie out of his.
There's not a soul left in that mountain after that, man.
They saw Freddy Krueger.
Mountain clearing event.
When you bugle at a immature bull that thinks that he's got something that he shouldn't have, it was like catching a 13-year-old guy with the farmer's daughter, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I his eyes went, "Whoa!" I screamed a bugle, man. That dude went, "What?" He turned and he thought a bull was going to kill him.
But
The cow did something I've never, and I wasn't worried about the cows looking at the bull.
She barked.
But we looked at the video, and the cow takes its mouth and goes like a weird
biting.
thing with its mouth, like biting the air.
It's kind of like she was so scared she wanted to scream, but voice wouldn't come out.
So and to let you know that he had no idea what we are, that he really thought a bull was going to kill him. He ran off. We called him back. Right. We just let him go. And Manano's like, Joe, he's there. I can hear him. He's there. So
He was there.
We're just looking at my I was like, what the hell are you hearing, man? I was like, yeah, I can hear him. He's back there.
They came back.
What was cool is he would look at me, because I'd look at him like, are you sure? And he'd look at me, he'd look at me like that look how your mom looks at you, like, yes, it's there. It's like, yeah, don't worry, just be patient, bud. And sure enough, I look over there and you see him, and he's creeping back because I'm giving these cow calls. And he actually comes in, he's probably 20 yards and needs one.
He
more
was
step.
farther. I think he was like 27.
He didn't fart, bro. I didn't hear him fart.
Farther.
Oh, farther. Oh, okay.
You were farting.
He needs one more step to step out. Really does.
Yeah.
And he was like, he was still looking for that bull. And he's like, okay, maybe I could sneak in with this cow, but there's a bull in the air. I mean, you could just see
He was
his
scared.
body language was like, I don't want to get caught again, man.
Hey, he already had his hand in the cookie jar once.
Oh, he did, man. He just turned and went out of there and he was gone. But so I can tell you what doesn't work is that, you know, in that situation, as I reevaluate that situation, I would, in that one with a young immature bull, I was probably better just drawing, letting him see the movement and maybe boogering 5, 10, 15 yards and possibly getting a shot. Or if I really was astute to my
Draw
equipment,
beforehand.
I would have drawn, ahead of time. But it's not even currently in my playbook. Is
Right,
something that I
right.
have to change.
Yeah.
So, so that's something that wouldn't work like that. So that I just wanted to put that out there as something that.
Well, hey, his lesson learned, Joe. And as we went through the week, it was very evident the more aggressive we got with bugles, the less turned on they were. Right. And I mean, I remember it was me, you, RC Knox, and Cole. We had a bull above us, and I think we just overstimulated him,
Oh, and Luis killed his bull on day 6 of the hunt. So, I mean, that's when everything had already gone quiet.
Yeah.
But
he finally found one that would talk.
He found one that would
He
talk.
responded.
Yeah, he responded. And I think, as we got closer to that equinox, those things were going to start happening. They were getting, even though that there was so much pressure and few of them, the ones that were there were willing to cooperate if you made the right sounds.
So I want everybody to know, though, I went back just recently for about, it was probably 2.5 days of actual hunting, and when bulls should have been screaming and they weren't.
Yeah.
It was very, very quiet. It was strangely quiet. And I have a theory as to why on that. I'm not no biologist or anything, but one thing that we do know is that for a cow elk to go into estrus, it's depending on how much fat that they've got built up from their feed that's going to allow them to have a healthy calf. So that whole fat content kind of controls when they go into estrus. So when you have a bad year of feed, you have cows that are coming into estrus younger and older and different physical aspects of them that are coming into estrus at different times. So you can have ruts to spark up all the time. But man, with all the feed that was up there, with all the grass, I think these cows all have been very healthy. And we had that rut at the very beginning of September that was, that kind of went nuts there. Sure. And then I really think that next cycle was going to happen that 20 days or so afterwards. So about that
October 1st.
Yeah. And I think October is going to explode. I really do. But so I think that was part of it. Now, when we talk about strategies, we talked about the mafia strategy. We talked about Gilbert's strategies, but there was somebody who saw more elk than all of us combined. So let's talk about your strategy, Chap.
Yeah. And I think that has to be a big one, because I'm telling you, we could all learn from that.
Yeah. Well, like you said, I had a different experience. First time in a blind. And I think it kind of reinforced something that we said before in a previous podcast, is that if it's secluded enough, a waller or a spring or a small pond, a bull elk will come in the middle of the day to cool off or to drink. And what I noticed,
if it's hot.
Yeah, especially when it's hot, and it got really hot there a couple of days.
It got really hot. We're talking 90
degrees.
Yeah, and I had a 5x5 weather. A 5x5 came in at 12:30. Where most people are back at camp if it's too hot. He came in there and played around in the water for a good 10 minutes at least. It seemed like longer, but it was probably just 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then I took the shot at a different bull at 3 o'clock or 3:10. I remember the text
Yeah.
at 3:10, and that was in the middle of the day.
Yep.
And there was a group that came in right around 4 o'clock, and then from 6 to 7, I saw the larger group came in. So what I gathered from all that was, of course, the bull's going to come in if they're hot, to cool off or to drink, and they'll come in if they have cows with them. The cows will come with the bull. But I noticed that nothing came in early in the morning. So I figured that the elk were probably pretty active that night. Had enough to drink and were heading to their beds early in the morning. But as it warmed up, that was their opportunity to get some water to cool off. And we had insects in the lower. I was at the lower elevation. You guys were a little bit higher. So the insects were a problem probably for the elk, even where they would come in and try and get mud on themselves and to cool off. So that my observation was, and it reinforced the idea that a bull will go to water or to a waller in the middle of the day.
They got a drink.
Right. And like I said, nothing came in before 12, but right at 12:30, that one bull came in, and it was the hottest day that we were up there.
And really, this area of the blind of yours, Chav, was only
Just
about
below us.
300 yards off of a 2-track. So,
right.
but because of topography, it was secluded enough in there. And, I think it's really critical to reemphasize what you're saying, though, is most hunters, if you think about their pattern, most hunters are going back to camp about 10 o'clock. A lot of guys don't head out till 4 o'clock.
Yep.
And people will go set water in the evening when, especially when they're pressured areas, those critters are actually getting water between
Middle of the day.
11 and 3. And then they're waiting till dark. What Chav said, they're already watered and they're not needing water in the morning because they're watering at night. So
No, and look, I think water drove it. It drove the corridors between the ridges. That's where those elk needed to go and drop off and get water. And then they could go right back to their bedding areas and eat, because there was plenty of feed up there at, around 10-6, 10-8, and even higher. I mean, there was plenty of feed there. But look, it is a known fact that if one of us would have sat with Chab every hunt, we'd all limited out. I mean, we'd all killed bulls. So it was really inevitable that when it's hot like that, this note to self, when it's hot like that, and you find a waller that's secluded and those kinds of, that's gold.
Stay around.
Hey, stay around it. That's right, brother.
but how tough was that, Chav?
Well, it was pretty tough, but when I realized that nothing was going to come in the morning, I kind of slipped in and got out there in the middle of the day. But it got cold, real cold in the morning, and that was tough. As a matter of fact, when I took the shot, I was actually laying down reading a book, and I heard something odd, and I go, "What? That's something different." And I peeked out, and I could see the elk were at the water hole.
And he was actually, what kind of blind was that you guys brought for him, Luis?
Oh man,
big.
it's one of the
big
big
old
blinds.
It's a pop-up blind, though. It's a
like a double
pop-up
bull,
blind.
but it's like a double bull, but it's
it contained his scent so well. He actually had cow elk that came behind his blind.
Behind me,
Yeah.
Something big came up
Game
one day because
No.
something got to the tent and was startled because I could hear the rocks, and it was like, holy cow, what was that? Is that a bear? But I also saw elk crossing behind me. When I peeked over on the side, I could see some elk walking by.
Yeah.
And they had to be, 10 feet from the blind. And at no time did the elk look at the blind itself, which I thought stood out. Now, the one deer that came in, he kept his eye on the blind the whole time.
Yeah.
Now the blind did resemble some of the rocks in the area. So, some of the
A big
big rocks
rock.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so-
which is important
Oh,
again, I
yes.
think, to kind of reiterate the behavior around elk noticing movement more than actual still objects, because that
Right.
little calf that came running towards us, Joe,
I was so
we
close.
stopped and she just came right around us and like grazed my broadhead.
She
And
actually, yeah, she was actually
I've
going
had them
to
walk right up.
walk on one side of us, turned and walked in front of me, and right by Luis's arrow on the
Yeah.
side right there. And
Yeah,
can you
and
get that video from you guys? I somehow I don't have that video. I want to put that. That's incredible. It was a
it
great.
is. It is. So and to Chav's point too, is if we think about this, you know, what is the good name? I forgot the name of the small parks where sometimes they would have wallows or not, but those parks, those small parks, meadows. There you go. That's the word. So if you think about it, all 4 elk that were shot in our camp this year were shot by meadows.
with water
close proximity to
Close
meadow.
and close.
All
yeah,
4.
Yes.
All 4. The first one, Mananos, they were coming up from a meadow. The second one, Beto, in the middle of the meadow where the water
In
was.
water, yeah.
Yeah. The third one, Chav, in the meadow with water. The
Right.
fourth one, mine, right next to a meadow.
Actually, most I would say all of the beds we found
We're in meadows.
were in meadows.
Yeah.
We found a cow bedded in a meadow
Secluded
that
meadows.
we didn't have a shot at.
But see
But-
that's another thing though is okay is when people hear the word meadow they think like this large open area
Mm-mm.
that
200
everybody
yards,
can
200
see.
yards.
And these were like
Oh.
mini secluded openings, meadows in that you had to be way back to be able to see them, right? It wasn't like something that was wide open. So I really believe that, you know, when people look at big parks and they think that the elk are coming down from these ridges to go to their night beds in the big parks, these elk weren't having to do that. They were
right
They
there.
had
night
everything
beds
up
in
there.
the aspen grass in these
Yeah.
big aspen areas. They were making night beds in these smaller openings like that were
Yeah.
very grassy, very
They had
comfortable.
everything. They had everything up there.
Shade. It was
Yeah.
25 degrees cooler up there, Joe. In the
Absolutely.
shade. I mean, you know, it's 85, 90 degrees down where we were camping. And I guarantee you it probably never got above 65 up there, you know,
So think
Just-
about that. Thermal regulation.
100%.
The food was everywhere. So food-
Everywhere.
it was
Yes.
everywhere. So it was thermal regulation, water, and security,
Most important,
right? Okay, are those things that we were really focusing on, and it seemed to be at a certain area. Now I'll tell you, when we went back just a couple of days ago, there in all of those areas that we found elk before were void of elk. And what had happened is elk were now being found up above 11,000 feet in that area, and some of that has to do with pressure. But a lot of it has to do as well as that with survival. Those elk are now going up where there's still great grass at the higher elevations, and they're eating that grass, and they're not eating themselves out of their winter home later on. So that when the snow flies and they get forced down, they're still going to have food to eat when they move down. So they're eating that good grass up higher right now, and it's taking them away from pressure, and it's letting them have a food source that's available now and leaving the food source for later.
Less
So-
bugs, too.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's real important to think about things like that when you're out there. And because they were definitely at certain levels. Now we found elk down around Chav that people were walking by, but
Oh yeah,
they
but they
were
were
out-
coming down. They were coming down to him. You know, I don't necessarily think they were bedded right behind him or something. I actually think they were on those ridges above us there, and they were
Yeah,
actually moving down to him. But they could do it like
difference.
that.
You know what I mean? It's not like
Yeah.
it could get to 10-6 where the guys were fine.
Right.
So-
A couple of other things, Joe, I think that work well. One is communication,
Mhm.
and then two is also, you know, my theory of no regrets. Right? I mean, grind it.
Can't shoot 'em in camp.
I think everybody when you come back knowing that you have given it all, then there's no regret there
Left
but
it all on
learning.
the field. Yep.
So I think our camp has been known for that year on year, and I think that mindset really makes a difference because it's contagious and everybody supports each other, even and when we're the most tired, hurt, or going through the downs and the lows.
The highs and the lows.
I'll tell you an interesting thing is Cole has always been kind of like a loner hunter, like solo type hunter. Now he hunts with Kyle, but he's the type of guy that'll go out there for days and go to different places and hunt on his own. And when I just saw him here just a couple of days ago, he said, after I left Elk Camp and I came to hunt by myself, he said, I was up there one time and he said, this sucks. He's like, man, where are my buds at, man? He was like, he had so much fun, the camaraderie and, the time that we have together in camp and in the evenings and stuff. He really, that put a mark on him and he really enjoyed that. And it's hard not to enjoy. That's why we do what we do.
Look, and he's an absolute savage, dude. I mean, the guy just jumped right in there in the middle of it with us and was not going to be denied. I mean, absolutely thoroughly enjoyed him in camp. Him and Rob, the CEO, Rob Canales as well. I mean, dude, those guys were freaking awesome.
Yep. I really wish it would have worked out so we could have had Eric with us, because I think that would have been a complete circle there.
For sure.
ElkBros coaches.
And when
the monster, Eric Aragon.
That's right. And then when I was saying communication, it not only meant the communication of us sharing information on a daily basis. I take that for granted now because that's the way we operate. But I'm talking about those Zoleo devices, like your post on Instagram today, right? I mean, the way we communicate. I had somebody asking me, he's like, hey man, what device do you guys use to communicate? Because we're not having luck with what we're using right now. And I told him, I said, hey man, look, we've been using these guys and the Zoleo really has worked incredible for us. The day Beto killed his bull, that was critical. We were on a complete opposite side of the mountain, and we were able to work our way over there and be able to help out, and so same when we killed Manano's cow. Manano and I texted you guys, said, hey, we got an elk down. Right. You guys keep on hunting. We got this, because we knew that we could handle it from where we were without, and then letting everybody else do their thing. And then, same when I killed the bull, I communicated it, hey, bull down, Manano's going to camp. And then two guys were able to meet Manano at camp. And then they came in and helped out. So, I mean, it worked beautifully as far as being able to know and understand what everybody was doing. And we would check in on each other every day.
I was able to help Cole coming off the mountain too, go pick him up, because that was going to be a miserable walk for him to come all the way back to camp.
Chab sent a text out at 3:15. He's like, nobody answered.
Again, that Zoleo device is great if it's not covered. It'll work pretty good.
And if you're paying attention to it, you can read
and you can see where it gives you the check mark, and it's been sent or anything like that. So it's a little bit to learn, but man, what a great tool.
Well, and I'll tell you, the other thing that was going on with Chabs was we were going from pairing it with my phone to pairing it with his. And then, when you do something like that, I don't think everything was sometimes getting paired correctly. So I think we got to make sure Chav has a device. I have a device. We don't have everybody about that. And that's the cool thing. If people don't realize how good of a device this is, we would love to be sponsored by Zoleo, but we're
when I told him about Zoleo, it's like, we're gonna check it out. Did you guys get anything by it? I said,
boys,
absolutely.
Our podcast, hit us up.
We
boys.
should.
We love.
I said absolutely nothing. We just honestly like to recommend stuff that works for us, because it has.
It's worked for us, and you do have
sitting in there on
have a subscription.
I'm sitting in there on the table right now. I thought because Joe and Cole were on the mountain, I'm like, I'm not missing out on one thing that these guys say. I turn my Zoleo on every night, and it was rocking and rolling in there, and I'm going to use it down at my ranch. We don't get reception very well at the ranch, and I'll always be able to talk to Logan, and be able to get reception.
The battery lasts forever.
It does
Forever.
like 8 days. I left mine on the other day.
I charged it
all
once.
day, all night, 8 days in a row. It stayed on.
I charged it once.
Yeah. And it's funny because when I see mine get to 50, I think of it like I do my
nervous.
cell phone.
Weaker.
I get
I get
nervous.
worried, man. It's like,
Yeah.
that's
That's why I charged it once. Yes.
yeah, like I'm going to charge it, but man, it will stay on 50 forever. It's,
Yeah.
like that. So, guys, can you think of when we say this, because we're lessons learned, insights, thoughts, was there any particular lesson that something that we haven't talked about that you might have learned on this trip? But I have one. I'll give you an example, is that when it came to finding areas with less hunters, is that the easier it was, the better the road system, the easier and the more comfortable the camping situations were in the area, the way more hunters and camps there were going to be. Like our first site had incredible roads. It had a lot of available camping areas that anybody could pull off with large RVs, different things.
Buses.
Plus,
Bus.
down at the bottom near near the activity centers, there were improved campgrounds, there were cabins, there were Airbnbs. So it was really a place that a lot of people could go and be comfortable and still go out in the woods. So one of my lessons is that, if the roads get just a little bit rough,
it holds
a little bit,
other people
it
out.
keeps a lot of people out. Yes. There's diehards are going to go in, but anytime you add a little bit of that, or you take away amenities, then sometimes people just don't want to do without those amenities. So something to think about. Any other lessons you might have learned?
For me, I think, those things that kind of you learn as you go, right? And for me and Manano is we realized how difficult it was to get up there in the mountain where we were having the encounters. And then soon we realized it's like this stuff about coming here in the mornings and going back to camp and then coming back up here in the afternoons ain't working. Yeah. So, I mean, we immediately switched to just pretty much staying the whole day up in the mountain and try to make the most out of the day that way. I think
all the day when you were in your hammocks, you had a herd come into you.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So that midday, dude, think about it.
Yeah.
If you want to hunt elk that are less pressured, hunt when there's less pressure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right. And that's absolutely that midday, right?
That last day, RC and I hunted till almost 1:30. And I'm telling you, man, and we called the same hunters in twice that day, in freaking a lot different areas too. I can't believe those guys came up where we were, but they did. And at the end of the day, we were in them all morning, and we just ran out of time, and we had that area figured out and had made the trek that morning, got up in there and got on them early, called that bull into about 75 yards. And then, the encounter happened and the bull left. We knew right where he went. So we decided we'd educate our new team that we met and let them know who ElkBros were, and shake their hand, thank them for their service. One of them was a lieutenant colonel in the Army, Colonel Brown. Great meeting those guys. Nate Ragland out of Plano, Texas. I mean, it was awesome meeting those cats, right? So at the end of the day, we decided we go another, couple miles straight up the mountain to another ridgetop where I'd actually killed my bull. And that's when we figured it out, that those areas off of that were more to the south were actual bedding areas. There's so many beds in there around those little parks, those little meadows.
That's where you want to do those scenarios, right?
For sure. And again, man, you know, we dove off the mountain at like 12:30, 1 o'clock, and we knew what time it was. I mean, it was, we thought we stayed in that wallow for a long time because we knew what could come in there, but it was fantastic. We left it all out there on the field, and and I've said this 1,000 times. If you listen to our past podcast, I had an absolute whale of a time hunting with the legend RC Knox. I mean, we got to rekindle that and had a absolute great time. You know, anytime you hunt with him and Brendan is a good time. So it was a lot of fun. Learned a tremendous amount. And those big things that we took away, Joe, were the elk being silent and understanding and using the established roads and trailheads, you know, to understand the travel corridors between here. Those were big takeaways.
But really, our playbook, we used our playbook, and we went into Colorado and got it done. Yeah.
And I was going to say, Joe, I mean, aside from all of that, you know, it was funny because when you're talking about the playbook, it's like as the days went by and things just started changing, and Manano and I started, you know, we never argue, so we were starting to argue about, you know, the facts. I mean, so we're like, okay, dude, let's sit down and let's talk about the facts. What are the facts? You know, when have we had encounters and why or where and all that stuff, and trying to put.
Let me say something, Luis, which is a fact.
It's a fact.
The 3 elk we got, I picked the 3 areas.
Did.
I was the one. So
Sure.
please.
Okay, so again, Manano, you're the one.
I'm
You're
the
the man,
leader.
brother.
I'm the leader.
I knew this was segueing into something.
You know,
Yes.
you can't push it that far, man. It's just you
Well,
can't do that.
The only 3 elks we got,
Did he
I
say I'm
picked
the
the
one?
area.
Did he say I'm the one?
I don't know. I can't understand him anymore. His English is getting worse by the minute. But anyhow, but the point being is, like, we had to go back to the facts, and we had to go back to the fundamentals. And the fundamentals ended up, even though that Manano's elk was killed without calling at the moment, but I do believe that the previous calling that was taking place helped.
Created the opportunity.
Beto's bull wasn't killed by
Same way.
calling at the moment, but again, they were working their way into,
Absolutely.
you know, and so, but when we went back to the fundamentals, calling had a big role in it. So
100%.
that was important. And then the other the huge takeaway for me is, like, man, when you talk about the moment, you know, when you have the moment specials, I'm thinking when I missed, because I missed, like, clean missed that bull when I first shot at him.
Mhm.
I was like,
out.
you in the video, you even hear me whisper out like, like, what the heck, man?
Yeah.
What happened? I was just like,
You could have
I
got spun
couldn't-
out, but you didn't.
You stay in the
I
game.
couldn't. Yeah.
in the game.
And so
Big deal.
for me, that was important, being capable to recover from that miss,
Hell yeah.
keep my head in the game, keep calling it, and then call it back, re-knock an arrow, draw again, recalculate, because that was my mistake. My mistake was the deceiving distance where that bull was.
Yep.
And I thought a bull was at 30 yards. It was at 40 yards, shot right under it. It spooked. It didn't know what happened, was able to call it back and to get the right shot in there. That I was like, I'm getting a second opportunity. I'm not missing this one. So, but just trying to stay there for me was
Staying
important.
in the game, man. Staying connected with the whole thing. You're not getting spun out because something went wrong. I mean, same thing for us. With 3 of us, we scared that bull 3 times. Finally, he couldn't take it. And when he peeled out of there, he was leaving. I mean, leaving. And, you know, I whined at him 2 or 3 times and had the fortitude to draw as he's moving away, right? Step out from that little aspen tree, draw my bow as he's running off, and he stops broadside. You know, kind of got a gift from Brendan, no doubt. I mean, I thought he was 50. He said 53. And I mean, as soon as he says 53, it's not a fraction of a second. You hear
It was
the arrow
fast.
go poof. And look, I'm telling you, if you get spun out in that situation and you watch the bull run out of your life and don't do anything about it, finish. You got to stay in the moment the whole time.
You're not going to lose anything, man.
Exactly.
I mean,
but there's a lot of guys, Joe, that won't finish. You
lock up and you think it's over, but you always got to try to give yourself an opportunity. That's the key. Keep that diaphragm in your mouth, use it. Throw out a cow call, I don't care what you do something.
Yeah. And when you got an opportunity to draw your bow and move. It doesn't matter if that critter's in front of you 20 yards and you got stuff in front of you, draw the bow and start moving, because
you have to draw and you have to create a shooting lane or you have no opportunity.
The worst thing that can happen is the bull or the cow or whatever you're hunting is going to leave.
Yeah.
But look, I'm telling you, they will stay a long time.
At least you're creating the chance, man. You're giving yourself odds, so that's a big deal. Yep. Guys, we're hitting on our time here. We're not going to get to our mailbox. It's not going to happen. But I want you to know, Aaron Hughes from Fountain Green, Utah, Carter Medellin from North Dakota, Blake Johnson, Bob Rothrock from Louisville. All you guys, we've got you on our queue. And we'll hit y'all's questions when we get here on the next time on the show. This has been a big deal for us hunting out of state in Colorado. Wanted to share everybody with that. Also, before Gilbert closes out, a little personal thing. Tonight my oldest daughter turned 34, and
happy birthday!
Yeah, Brittany, happy birthday! But Britt. One thing that I want to say out there to our listeners as well is as a father of two daughters, and as a hunter who was a very selfish hunter in that, that was kind of my time, and I'm very serious about the way I hunt. I think I could have done a lot better with my daughters and including them in hunts. And, my daughter's 34 years old, and the gift that I got her for the first time, something I should have got her a long time ago, is a buck knife. And that was her birthday present now with her name on it. And even though that it's never too late in life, just like Gilbert says, when that animal runs off, you still got to give yourself an opportunity. You got to draw. And even though that I've missed out on opportunities, my own fault because of the way I froze up doing things, I'm going to try to improve on that. And, my daughter's been hunting with me. She's a great hunter. But I haven't nurtured that, and I think she missed that and missed out on it. So dads out there with those daughters,
it's not too late.
Yeah. And that's Gilbert has been incredible in doing that. Luis is preparing his daughters incredibly.
Tomas is getting ready, Clara.
She's coming up. And I'll just tell you is that don't miss out on that. Share it. Share your world with them, share your passion with them. They don't have to love it, but some of them might. And one thing that they do enjoy is just moments with you and what you like.
Telling stories.
So that's my message out there for tonight. And for my daughter and her birthday wish is that all of you, share these times with your sons and with your daughters and grow that next generation. And teach them responsibly, teach them ethically, and let's continue this incredible tradition so that they can have some of these incredible experiences and incredible memories and share them with you. So that was my
great message.
Well said, brother.
Great message, Joe. Guys, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe, rate, and review us. You got to go to Apple Podcasts or iTunes to review us, and you can check out more elk hunting content at ElkBros.com. And just a reminder, if any of our listeners would like their questions answered on our show, just send your questions to info@ElkBros.com. That's info@ElkBros.com. It was epic in Colorado, y'all. Don't know when we're coming back, but I guarantee you it's always an option. And like we say here in the Lone Star State, fellas, husbands, kiss your wives, wives, kiss your husbands, hug your babies, keep your broad head sharp and your powder dry. And we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
And guys, here he comes again, man. And him and his brother scored this year. These are true killers out there. Here's some more music from our brother, Tony Wintrip, closing out the show. Peace, peace.
Thank you, Tony.
I like to put my tag on you, I've been hunting a lot of years. I had one too many missed shots and one too many beers. I saw you rolling in when the lights went down, but you never even had a clue. So I left the blind on a Sunday afternoon. I think I'd like to put my tag on you. Well, I spent a couple nights in the window, just watching the wind blow by. I'm wondering where you're gonna make your bed at, and where you'll go with that sunrise. Do you see yourself in the hands of a man with the working man blues? I think I'd like to put my tag on you. I'd like to put my tag on you. I'd give anything but my rifle that my grandpa passed through. Yeah, I'd like to put my tag on you. You got the biggest rack, and Lord knows that I have passed a few. If I could give a damn about the money, here's the cold hard truth. I think I'd like to put my tag on you. There's an empty space in my man cave that my buddies recognize, and it has your name all over it, but you gotta jump that fence tonight. The full moon is rising, and tomorrow's sky is blue. I'd like to put my tag on you. Yeah. I'd like to put my tag on you. I'd give anything but my rifle that my grandpa passed through. Yeah. I'd like to put my tag on you. You got the biggest rack, and Lord knows that I have passed a few. I could give a damn about the money. Here's the cold hard truth. I'd like to put my tag on you. I'd like to put my tag on you. Oh yeah, baby. I'd like to put my tag on you.